Hi, I'm Lady Genevieve. Today's video is going to be a review about a Korean drama called The Glory. It's an upcoming Netflix series which will be premiering December 30th. I was given screeners for the first 6 episodes, and there are going to be 8 episodes in total. So if there turn out to be some unexpected issues with the ending and how it lands, you're not allowed to judge me for that because I can only make an opinion on what I've seen thus far. I asked for screeners of this because I was skimming through a list of various upcoming releases of Netflix as a platform, and I read the synopsis for The Glory, which said that a woman was going to get revenge on the childhood bullies who destroyed her life. In case any of you didn't know, there's a film called Manon des Sorts, which I love. It's part of a French duology by Claude Berry. The first film is called Jaune de Fleurette, and then Manon des Sorts is the second film. Without giving anything away, something bad happens in Jaune de Fleurette, and then in the following film, Manon des Sorts, a woman gets revenge for that. I haven't watched Jaune de Fleurette in quite some time because it's sad, and I like to just skip to Manon des Sorts to see the revenge. All this to say, you dangle a vengeful woman in front of me, you have my attention.
A bitch slapped me all over my whole entire face.
Considering that I have had problems more than once on my channel of Korean companies filing false copyright claims on videos where I have reviewed Korean films and had footage included as B-roll, even though my videos fell under fair use, I'm not going to use any footage from this show in my review. And if you go searching for either of the videos that I am referring to right now, they're not on my channel anymore because that's what happens when you file false copyright claims. The press screener letter for this series says to not give away any plot-specific information. That's a very broad thing to say, so I will be erring on the side of caution in my feedback. When I pull up the series on Wikipedia, it says, a former victim of school violence seeks revenge on her bullies after taking up a job as a homeroom teacher at the elementary school of the bully's child. The information that I just read was pulled from an article on NME. Pardon me for covering my bases, but I'm not in the mood for false copyright hits on my channel, especially this close to the holidays. This article also has some general descriptions of some of the characters, which includes broad strokes information about some of their stories, so I will be using that as a point of reference for what's acceptable to discuss or not. I binged these 6 episodes in a day, and I know I'm just going to be sitting on Netflix right when the show is finally released so I can watch the last 2 episodes because I really want to know how they are going to play out. That should give you some idea that the show does live up to the reputation of Korean dramas being very addicting to watch. I deem it absolutely essential, though, to give everyone a fair warning that when the first episode shows how vicious these school bullies were to the protagonist, it is difficult to watch. Whether or not you consider it to be graphic is probably too subjective for me to make any sweeping declarations. It's not Terrifier 2 as far as being graphic goes, but the emotional and psychological heaviness is a lot. I would imagine that it may have been deemed necessary to show what they did so that you as the viewer feel extremely antagonistic towards these bullies that she's going to be going after for the rest of the show, but I do think that the story could have still been effective by omitting certain things visually. Sometimes they do the thing where you have the setup and then the aftermath of something that the bullies do, but other times you are seeing this violence inflicted against a young girl to such an extent that I just wish I didn't have to see it. You could have showed me the aftermath of what the bullies did to her, and I would have still been emotionally at an 11 out of 10, heating up some popcorn so I can watch her methodically destroy all 5 of these monsters. One of the things that I was pleasantly surprised to see when watching these first 6 episodes is that the protagonist doesn't come from money, but the bullies do tend to skew towards being from more affluent backgrounds. They're not all wealthy to the same degree, but it's definitely a factor in why she was targeted, why they feel entitled to act as they do, and the difference in their socioeconomic backgrounds while growing up does continue to color the identities and behavior of the characters when the timeline moves forward, and those characters transform from teenagers to adults. There is a nice quality of mystery to the story because a lot of times in these first 6 episodes while you're watching, you know that she's up to things. You know that she's scheming, she's gathering intel, but you don't fully know the specifics of her plan or what exactly her next moves will be. You always know that revenge is the goal, but that description alone doesn't inform you of much else besides that. I didn't know if she was going to just go out and get a knife or several. I didn't know if she wanted to expose them publicly using media. I didn't know if she wanted to rob them. I mean, I personally would have said you could do all of that and I will be seated and ready. Having spoken before with a friend who is more acquainted with certain tendencies of Korean dramas, I do wonder if at least one of these bullies or all of them are going to meet very violent endings, and if so, whether or not she will be the one to get her hands dirty. The acting is interesting for me because most of the time the acting style feels more grounded and gritty, which is a fitting choice given the severity of the subject matter, but then there are these brief moments where some of the characters will emote in such a way that it almost feels like stylized overacting. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying that while watching, sometimes I'm trying to figure out what they're going for stylistically, and they've been keeping me on my toes. I really like the protagonist, and it's not exactly surprising that I would root for the working class protagonist who is setting out to destroy a bunch of evil rich people. If you are familiar with my channel, you already know I love a good eat the rich story. But I also can't help but feel sad for the protagonist because tonally, the story is keeping an element of realism. So you really see and feel just how much she is still carrying the weight of this trauma that she experienced. She needs therapy, but of course, it's probably more fun for us to watch a show where you have someone going on a vengeance quest as opposed to just sitting in therapy for years and years. So that's what the show is going to do. Although there are a lot of interesting developments in the story in the first 6 episodes, I can't help but also feel like these last 2 episodes have to be wild because there are so many things being set up that a lot still presumably needs to happen for her quest to be complete. Some of the secondary characters in the bully group feel a little underdeveloped, which doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing because the main bully that you are rooting for her to get, you do get a lot of airtime with that character. I'm kind of surprised that the show is only 8 episodes in total because watching just how much setup has happened so far in 6 episodes out of 8, it felt more like this would be a 10 or 13 episode season at least. I would have expected more escalations to happen with some of the pieces on her chessboard, so to speak. The article I've been referencing also mentions the male lead of this show. His character is so sweet. You can get some hints that there is more to him than meets the eye, but in general, he's just one of those people that really comes across as having nothing but the best intentions. But he's so nice that I'm kind of worried that he's not going to survive the show. My friend who watches more K-dramas than me said that a lot of times the sweetest characters that the writer or writers make you fall in love with are set up that way just to devastate you even more once they get killed off. They did that to me multiple times on Vincenzo, so now my trust issues, even worse. If I'm watching a K-drama now, I don't trust any of these writers for even 1 second. You're not going to make me the fool again. I don't really have any major criticisms of The Glories so far with these first 6 episodes, apart from what I've already said about wishing that I didn't have to see the bullying be as violent as it is. To be honest, they could have just had these bullies calling her names and insulting her by using poor as a derogatory term, and you would have already had me on board with her going and destroying their lives. It is not difficult to make me root for a protagonist on a vengeance quest against rich people. Also, there's this one character in the show whose name I don't actually know, but in my mind, I've been calling him Bob. If you watch the show and you see him, you will know who I'm talking about and why I call him Bob. I don't like him. When they first introduced this character, he hadn't even said anything yet, but all they did was cut to a shot of him, and he was just standing there, and immediately I knew he was a problem. Bob, you're on my list. He wasn't even one of her bullies in this story, but I hope she destroys him too. I don't care. She can get everyone as far as I'm concerned. There are so many terrible people on this show, and I don't mean that as in badly written or badly acted. I'm saying that they are bad people, and I am actively rooting against them. I am praying for their downfall. Tong Yoon, get this bully and get Bob. You know, Anya Taylor-Joy really summed it up when she said,
I have a thing about feminine rage.
watch. I can't fully explain why the show is so addicting when I'm proactively trying to tiptoe around spoilers, but the heightened emotions and dramatic turn of events just gets the right combination of chemicals firing in my brain and all the pleasure centers as well. Anytime she says or does something to advance further in her vengeance quest, it's like there's some sort of catharsis of feeling like she's not just getting her own bullies, but she's getting the world's bullies. It feels like a symbolic victory, or at least I hope it will feel like that even more so once I finish everything beyond just these first 6 episodes. Now, if you are uninitiated to K-dramas, I don't know if this is the first one I would point you towards, especially when I haven't seen the ending. I would probably choose Vincenzo as a recommendation for a first watch because that one has my baby, Hanso, in it, and I love a good himbo. But The Glory would be a much faster introduction because a lot of K-dramas can be very long, with a lot of episodes in a season, and long run times for each episode, as in each episode being over an hour long. But The Glory is under an hour with every episode that it airs, so like it or leave it. Once these episodes drop, you could probably just take one day to binge it and decide immediately whether or not it was the right fit for you. If whatever vengeance happens in the last 2 episodes proves to be worth all the buildup you get from these first 6 episodes, then I might have to just keep coming back to rewatch some of these last couple of episodes in order to just experience that buildup to the main event. Though to be fair, the ending of episode 6 was very powerful and emotionally moving, and I like that we get that mix of the mission and the emotions. If this review piqued your interest in the show, feel free to come back after the show drops on December 30th to share your thoughts on all of the specifics of the plot developments, because I don't know at this moment in time anyone who has talked about watching this show when it comes out, so I don't have anyone to talk about it with. Thank you everyone for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a wonderful remainder of the holiday season. I might have one more video coming out before the new year, and then I know that I want to post a larger video project that I've been really wanting to work on for several months now, so just stay tuned to see what that is. See you in the next one. Bye.